Welcome to the World Cup Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com, coming to you from the west coast of the U.S., Josh Lander, joined by my mate Dan Tracy across the pond. How are you today on a Monday, Dan?
Very good. I'm feeling very Christmassy. You know, what a way to start the week, get a Christmas jumper on. You don't usually get the opportunity to celebrate Christmas and the World Cup at once. I feel sorry that I didn't give you the memo, which was just done on a whim. So had we kind of really worked together, we could have both had a jumper on. But I'm kind of flying the flag for Christmas as well. So yeah, it's all good. We're in the final week of the World Cup. Sleep is just around the corner, but not yet. So we've still got some work to do.
Work to be done, yes. We've got our video up by now for the semifinals that are coming starting tomorrow as we're shooting this on Tuesday. And we're also now going to just give a fun video that to put out before those games where we talk about a few of the futures, some of the status of the Golden Boot Award, Golden Ball, Golden Glove, the winning. There's a few futures we talked about earlier as well in terms of an African nation winning, first time winners, things of that nature. So we'll talk about all of that right now. And Dan will also have this up on thelines.com with a few of the bets that we're talking about here, hopefully, so you guys can keep following us on there and here. So make sure to like and subscribe. We do still have the third place game coming out and the finals that we'll be previewing for you guys as well. Dan, let's just go ahead and jump right into some of these fun bets that we're going to talk about, starting with the Golden Boot, which is one that's the sort of player award that's always talked about the most, obviously, who has the most goals in the tournament. And so I just want to know where you feel, how you feel about it now. Mbappe, who was definitely obviously plus money before the tournament, I think it was like plus 700 for him, plus 650. He's now minus 225 as he's got 5 goals. Lionel Messi has 4, plus 275. The other man alive, who's still in the tournament that could reasonably fight for the award is Olivier Giroud. I believe he has 3 goals now with that header that put France through. He's at plus 700 to overtake both of these two gentlemen as well. So he would need to get roughly 3 goals or so. If Mbappe gets a goal, he's feeling pretty good. So tell me how you find value in betting on this market.
Okay, certainly a 3-horse race, so we can scrub out any other names such as Alvarez for Argentina, Kramaric, Croatia. It's a 3-horse race. So we're looking at Mbappe, minus odds now. There's no value in that. So obviously he's got the best chance of winning it. He's a goal clear, but there's still a couple of permutations that could go against him. Let's assume that in some crazy world, Croatia and Morocco gets the World Cup final and it's France versus Argentina in the 3rd, 4th place playoff. If that's the case, you'd imagine that Mbappe would be like, "Oh, I don't want to play in this fixture. It's gone. Just get me back to Paris, and I'll focus on Ligue 1." However, Lionel Messi, it could well be his final World Cup game. It's probably going to be his final World Cup game, either Saturday or Sunday, isn't it? So he's probably going to then be given the extra opportunity to play in one more match. Who knows? Get the necessary goals, win the Golden Boot, even if he doesn't win the World Cup. So from that point of view, you're probably thinking if there's a goals difference, and Messi might still have an extra match regardless of what happens in the semi-finals, that plus 275 that I've got looks a lot more appealing than the minus. If it was, say, plus 100 for Mbappe, you might be tempted just to get those plus odds. We never turn our nose down at plus odds, but with it being as short as it is, and there's still potential for it to be overtaken, I don't really feel the need to back Mbappe, even though he's the favourite. And again, you've got to consider that Olivier Giroud is the kind of the wild card in all of this. I think he's got 4 goals now because of that goal against England. So he's on the same goals as Messi, one behind Mbappe, and potentially they're going for the same award now, that being Mbappe and Giroud. So they could undercut each other. Giroud could take a goal from Mbappe, whereas Messi doesn't really have that problem because no matter how many chances he's put on for his teammates, they tend to miss them. So it's kind of all on him. So as I say, if you're looking for real value, go for Giroud because you're thinking he might be the horse that comes up late and beats everyone. But I'm going to sort of sit in the middle of these 2 French strikers and go for Messi at plus 275.
I like it. Yeah, I think that's where the value is. That's why I hit Kylian Mbappe before the quarterfinals, before they played England, and I hit him to win. He was leading 5-3 at the time and was plus 135. So I was like, all right, come on. So I already took that, as you said, the with fewer games left now, the minus 225 for him at this point, the value's gone. Messi at plus 275, as you say, also because it's on him and it needs to be him. That's good. The reason that Giroud as well, to me, I mean, there's 2 matches left for France. If France doesn't make it to the final in some world, I don't know that Mbappe would even play. I think Giroud would have more reason to play just to continue to pad his goals for, all time in the World Cup as his last one. I think he would want to play one more game. That would give him 2 chances in that scenario. And even if Mbappe does play in that third, place game, if they were to lose, I would still feel better about Giroud. I also feel better about Giroud right now. What we saw in the England game was if you take Mbappe out, well, yes, that's going to, help you especially the way it helped England, I would believe, to send 2 or 3 guys at him at each time. But that also opens things up for Giroud more and more. So if the way Mbappe has looked, you have to put people on him. He's lethal from everywhere from 50 yards out. He's starting to be lethal at that point because of how fast he can get to the 18. So I think Giroud, will have a little bit more opportunity there. But Messi is the one for right now. Just take him as your best bet and best value. Giroud is a bit more of a long play and still has a bit of value that right now, the way that things could unfold here in the semis. So let's go to the next one here and Golden Ball. And this award is really best player, right? And to be clear to everybody, the Golden Ball, much like the Golden Glove that we'll talk about for keepers, the Golden Ball is decided by a panel of sorts, right, that decide who had the best performance overall, not strictly based on, just goals or assists or whatever other statistic you might want to use. But any other insight there is that's pretty much, if you look at some of the winners of past, it's definitely players who made it, pretty far in the tournament. Luka Modric, obviously, Croatia last World Cup making it to the final. Messi in 14, they made it all the way to the third place game. Diego Forlan before, when Uruguay went a bit further than people thought, and he was really sensational for them. Zidane in 06, and then Oliver Kahn, the last goalie to win it in 2002, with some really stellar play for them, obviously losing to Brazil there in the final. I guess where do you look for the Golden Ball now, and how that one could play out from here?
Well, I mean, the names you rattled off there, the common theme is that a lot of them didn't win the World Cup. So you're kind of thinking, is this the kind of consolation prize, if you will? If you've got Mbappe at plus 110, Messi plus 125, it's almost toss of a coin. You could go either way. Now, if it gets to an Argentina-France final, then you're sort of thinking, right, one team's going to win this World Cup. Do they give the award to the other one? So are you sort of waiting for the final to take place, and then the odds might sort of funnel down to these two and only these two? Because you've got someone like Antoine Griezmann at plus 2,000, who's next in the list. You've got a massive gap between Mbappe, Messi, and the next. You've got also Luka Modric. If he gets to the final, those odds could shorten considerably. So, you might want to be tempted by looking outside France and Argentina to get a little bit of value. But it's quite a narrow field, really. It looks like one of the two. I mean, if Argentina and France both don't get to the final, we're just relying on a technical panel to sort of decide who wins it. They might then go for broke and go for someone like Luka Modric. Could even be someone like Sofiane Amrabat, again at plus 2,000. So, it's going towards the two biggest names in the tournament, and rightly so, you'd have to say. But really, it is a toss-up between whoever doesn't win gets the award, because it would be strange for, say, Argentina to win and then Lionel Messi to be called player of the tournament. It never quite works like that, even though usually a winning player should be the best player in the tournament. That's the kind of logic works against itself. So, it's kind of which ones you want, really. And again, I think maybe you might want to wait until the semi-finals are out of the way, because rarely does a player get to, I know Diego Forlan was an example, but rarely does a losing semi-finalist do enough to then win the award, because I'm kind of looking at the likes of Modric and Amrabat. They've been amazing, but I don't know they have been the best players in the tournament if they don't get to the final, if that makes sense.
It does. But I'm going to use your logic and add to it, right? So I agree that right now, it's worth it to more weight for between Messi and Mbappe, unless, of course, you think that one team has a better shot at making it through than the other. And that would obviously be France, right? Because you would think that even if Mbappe has one more game that matters for winning the World Cup, where he makes it to the final and Messi does not, that would be a bigger, sort of shame on Messi than it would even a tip of the cap to Mbappe. Like, if France gets through, they're supposed to get through. If Argentina doesn't get through, it's not the first time that Luka Modric and company have upset a better nation overall to make it to the final. See, 4 years ago. So my logic there would just be, right now, Mbappe's, I have him at about plus 120, 125, like you said. Lionel Messi a little bit closer to even money. Best, I think, is like plus 105 or so for him. Plus 110 maybe on this side of the pond. That said, I think Messi's team has a better chance to lose, which means I might as well take Mbappe now. If they both get through, I mean, they're both going to have negative odds at that point. When you say like probably closer to minus 120 for each of them, or what have you, right? So right now, I think it's more worth it to take Mbappe because I think his team has a better chance of getting through. Not that Argentina has a poor chance. That's just one way to look at it. Same logic though. Luka Modric's team to get through at plus 1200 right now. It seems worth it because if they do get through, then now he's really in the running because he's been truly incredible. I mean, even some of the stats that you can actually start to see in terms of interceptions, dribbles completed, chances created, like he's up there in some of those key categories for midfield. And usually the best midfield is going to keep your team in the World Cup, as we see the best midfields usually help their team keep stay in the thick of things. So I would just say for right now, if you're going to hit it, Luka Modric to me does seem at least a sprinkle worth it, because of the fact that I think Croatia can get through. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you are. I think that's great logic in that if Croatia gets to the final, that Modric price will tumble, and then you might think, okay, it's plus 600, plus 700. It's still a good price, but you might think, do you know what? I've sat on it for too long. So, why not just sprinkle a little bit on the anticipation that there's going to be a little curveball? And in fairness, Croatia getting to the final is not a big curveball. They got to the final 4 years ago. They are where they are now. So when you're looking at the names, Modric could be the kind of the wild card in all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, at least a wild card that's worth it. So we'll keep an eye on that one, and maybe it'll probably come up for a minute in our finals video, and probably a little bit in our third and fourth place one as well. But same as this award here, Golden Glove for the keepers here. This is not directly saves. I don't even know that saves were a statistic that were able to be tracked at earlier World Cups at one point. So for this one, this is a lot more of an award. Once again, similar to your MVP awards in the U.S. out here in our sports leagues, where it's just who was the best player at that position, in terms of keeper. And so just to give some context for, who's left in this one that's worth talking about for the Golden Glove, you've obviously got the keeper there in Croatia and in Livakovic, who I was saying correctly earlier, plus 150. Bono, who is, as we said, not the U2 singer, but Yassine Bono, plus 175, the wonderful keeper from Morocco who has come up big in PKs. And then you've got Emiliano Martinez in Argentina and plus 200, and Hugo Lloris plus 600, who actually was kept wildly busy against England for the first time. I think he had 3 saves before that game and then came up with like 7 of them in that England match. So he's at plus 600, somewhat of the dark horse, if you will. But I guess where do you start for value in this one?
I believe it would be either the Croatia goalkeeper or the Morocco goalkeeper, because you've got to consider that it's not the best defence. You can't just look at it and say, well, this team conceded the fewest goals. It's how active a goalkeeper is. So if you take Croatia's game against Brazil and how busy Livakovic was in that game, he made counter saves. They're the kind of things that will trigger the eyes of the FIFA panel who will be watching this and saying, right, actually, it's not necessarily just Morocco who have conceded 1 goal in tournament football. Yes, Bono's had a great tournament, but it's kind of, he hasn't been as busy, if that makes sense. You kind of need a goalkeeper who might let a couple in more than the team that hasn't let in the most goals, but he's really, really put to the test throughout the tournament. And I feel that Croatia's goalkeeper has done exactly that, because when you compare Croatia's and Morocco's offering in goal to Martinez and Lloris, they've had a great tournament, but it's almost their own base level. It's nothing above and beyond. Right. It's just them being good goalkeepers. And I'm not sort of understating Croatia's or Morocco's at all, but they've gone kind of extra and above, haven't they, in this tournament, and that's the kind of thing that will win you an award. So usually it goes to the goalkeeper of the team that wins the World Cup. It's kind of the reverse of the golden ball. So in that one, it's kind of a case of, well, we finished second, here, have this trinket. In this one, it's, well, actually, you've got your team to the World Cup final and you've won it, have this prize as well. So maybe by that sort of notion, we're either going to see a buck of the trend, because we saw Courtois do it for Belgium 4 years ago. So this might be a new pattern, or it's actually a case of, conversely, Martinez and Lloris have actually got the value, because if you're going by the logic of a nation that wins the World Cup has the goalkeeper that wins the Golden Glove, you're looking at, say, France winning it. Lloris at the moment is plus 600. So if we're going to follow that logic of what usually happens, the person who could win the World Cup's at the longest price. So actually, the market might be back to front, if that makes sense.
It does, because if you look at since '98, let's say, when Barthez won it for France, won the World Cup, 2002, Oliver Kahn, Germany, runner-up in the World Cup. So, once again, the likelihood that it's Argentina, France is the highest right now as the two favorites to win. So if one of those goalkeepers is more likely to win it than the other two at that point because they're in the final. Then you've got Buffon in 2006 for Italy, boom, winner. Iker Casillas, Spain, 2010, boom. Manuel Neuer, I should say, for Germany in 2014. And then, Courtois bucks a trend there in 18 as well. But that's also because the man had, I believe, the most saves in the World Cup to date at that point because of that three-man defense that they play. Please don't get me started on Belgium. So moving past it to this award, with those odds, like you said, it's back to front almost because of the way that it's worked in the past and the fact that, Croatia and the Moroccan keepers have looked really, really good. Once again, also, they've had PKs. So they've had this sort of the limelight on them. Everybody in America is much more, those who follow, the Premier League know who Hugo Lloris is, but other than that, like, we've all now become fans more of Bono and of Livakovic because of the fact that they've had PKs and the dramatics and the Americans watching the dramatics and seeing that and going, oh God, well, the storyline is, the narrative is those guys win. And we're saying, no, the narrative is you have to make it to the final. And more often than not, if you win it, especially with a good performance in the final, now you're talking about, being the winner and having way higher chances of doing so. So yeah, I think it's just hit the value in this one, and it's actually the market might be a little bit misplaced, is what we're saying. So let's move on to a couple of the other futures that we had spoken about, and they're still available, obviously, but the winning continent, at this point, you can talk about, you also look at it through the nation, but for the winning continents here, obviously we have Europe, and then we have, Africa. So really, where do you, and then South America, sorry, as well, for Argentina. So for all three of those, is there any value in the odds that we have, or anything to that effect?
Well, if you look at the split of the continents, you've got two European teams, you've got a South American team, and the rest of the world. So in this instance, it's Africa. So Europe have obviously got two out of these four, so that's 50% of the field, but you're getting minus odds, so there's no value in that. Yeah. But arguably, you've got the better chance of a European team winning the World Cup. But even that, I wouldn't sort of touch it because South America's odds match their actual odds to win the tournament. So South America, by all intents and purposes, is just backing Argentina in a different name. The same for the rest of the world is backing Morocco in a different name. So actually, the value lies with, will there be a first-time winner in the World Cup? So you've got a simple market of yes and no. So no would be Argentina and France, and that's as short as minus 200, maybe even shorter. I think it's minus 500, actually. So that's quite short because all you're backing is, will Argentina or France win the World Cup? Right. Probably is the answer to that. However, if you're backing yes, that being Morocco or Croatia, you can get as much as plus 333. And when you've got half a chance of 50%, those odds are the value there, aren't they? So yes, you are losing a bit of value if you're not backing Morocco or Croatia individually, but lumping them together and saying one of these two will win the World Cup at plus 333, I think that's great value.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's just simple math. Now we don't really even have to worry about anything else. And I don't know. I'm having this weird premonition of a rematch of the final that we saw in the last one, which I don't want by any means. But I don't know. Like I said, you're going to have to really step on the throat of Croatia to kill them. So either way, this is a very fun pod that we've had so far, Dan. I'm glad we got to talk about things like the Golden Ball and Golden Glove as well. Any other parting thoughts before we hit the semifinals?
Well, no, I think that's about it, actually. I think we covered all the bases in terms of the outrights. There's kind of things like the winning group, but all you're doing is just kind of, again, swapping the names of what you're betting on. So instead of betting on Argentina, you're just betting on Group C. It's just kind of mimic bets, duplicate markets. You're just trying to sort of find something else. I think we've covered the main bases of outrights and futures in terms of what you wouldn't be backing if you were looking at the World Cup winner. That's the kind of real interesting one. So I think we've covered it all. Maybe actually the high scoring team, that's something that keeps it alive, because this one can still factor in the likes of England, because obviously they scored 13 goals. But France are leading that one at minus 225, only because they've got those two more matches. So it's going to be difficult for England to win this award. You're asking France to score no goals whatsoever. Argentina, by comparison, have been lower scoring. They're on plus 600, so they're going to need a real goal glut in the last 2 matches. So again, there's value if you want to be bold and try and get something out of England and say, okay, well, I'm confident France don't score in 180 minutes of football, but we can't see that happening really, can we? So that's another market if you're interested, but again, it's kind of following the money with France and their minus odds. So maybe bankroll build it, but I wouldn't be going too fast into that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, France makes sense, but I think the reason I would say there's value on Argentina at plus 650 is because if there is a flurry of goals for them, not as likely against Croatia, but maybe a little bit more possible in a fun final, or if they do have to play in that third place game, that's where wonky shit happens all the time, and you see a 4 or 5 goal performance from a team who's trying versus one who isn't, or whatever have you. So we'll see. Maybe there is some value there or not, but I was looking at that one as some possible fun as well. Either way, continue to come back, follow along. We still got a few more videos for you guys as we enter the semifinal, and then we'll have those 3rd and 4th place matches at the 3rd place match and the final as well. So until we see you next, happy betting.